everybody. It's Marlene from Life with Marlene. On this channel, I share my Florida vlogs. I do the Vlogger Spotlight. I do beach sounds. I take you around when I travel. I do lots of things over here on this channel. And today we're going to be on this topic, and I'm going to be talking about keeping your hands to yourself. Let me put this brand thing up. What I want to talk about today. Keep your hands to yourself, and we're going to cover different aspects of keeping your hands to yourself. So let me first off say that these opinions are my opinions or the opinions of those who are in the chat. I'm not telling anybody what to do, what to think. These are my personal views. But I'm starting to see the climate is changing now. I guess maybe because people are under so much pressure, they're under so much stress that they feel like it's okay to put their hands on somebody because they don't know how to control themselves, because they think that's the only way to have control or power over somebody is to put their hands on somebody. And people need to learn to keep their hands to themselves, and they're not. It's a big issue now. I'm starting to see all sorts of violence happening, and it's really out of control. I want to pull up the story that I found. Hold on one second. The story that I found about, namely, it was a domestic violence story. And I couldn't believe what's happening and the things that's happening out there, in the news. This one was back a long time ago, and it was the story of this lady named Elizabeth, and she survived domestic violence, and her story was a really good one because, for so long she was a stay-at-home mom, took care of her two children, and she said that it first started off as verbal abuse. She knew her partner for 20 years, and he was a good person, but then he started changing in 2015 after his mom died. He bought some guns, a machete and a shotgun, and he became more combative, not only with me, but others, starting in social media. You're really low. Is that any better? Is the volume better now? I don't know. The same thing happened yesterday when I was using this device. It said that my volume was low. Is it any better or is it the same? Let me know. Let me know how is my volume right now, or I'll have to switch to my phones. It may be my iPad is going out. I may need to go and replace my iPad. How you doing, Word? I hope you're doing good. Trying to get some watch time over here. It's a little better, but not much. Yeah, I think I'm gonna switch to my phone. I probably will be better. Hold on. I'll be back. Let me switch devices. Hold on. Okay. I hope you guys can hear me now. I hope that's better. Let me know if it's better. It better be. If it's not, I don't know what to say. I had to go and get my phone off the charger. Hey, Lovey, how are you? Hey, Word. I hope the volume is okay. Let me know if you can hear me. Yeah, I wanted to come in and to talk about this topic. Oh, much better. Good. I wanted to come in and talk about this topic because I see like violence right now. It's out of control, so out of control. And like I was saying, this news story that I found, this is not a new article that I read, but it was about a lady who, for like 20 years. Hey, Anthony, how are you? Good to see you. It was about a lady who was in a relationship for a long time with her partner, and for 20 years their relationship was good, but after her partner lost his mother, then he started to get angry, and he started to take it out on social media. He started getting aggressive on social media. Then it started getting into verbal abuse, and then it turned physical. That violence, it turned physical. So I do think that there are a lot of signs, things that happen before a person gets to putting their hands on somebody. And that's why I wanted to do this topic about keep your hands to yourself. I think that there are escalations to everything, to the situations that happen to a lot of people. And I really do feel sorry for the people who get attacked with violence. For this situation, like, it did not end well. It turned out that, at the end of the story, she winded up unaliving him because he kept, hitting her. And of course, she never did anything about it until one day she snapped and he was gone. So, not all the time it's a situation where it turns out to be a good thing. But my question is, like, why do you think people put their hands on one another? This was a case of domestic violence. I don't condone, this is my personal opinion. I have to say, I don't condone violence, but when it comes to like you doing self-defense to protect yourself, yes, there are times that you do have to protect yourself, but it goes both ways. This was a case where it was two people in a relationship. They were not married, but they were living, like, what did they call that, common law marriage. So it winded up that she winded up taking them out because she was protecting herself, and it was a whole case that went to court, and it got really messy, and she lost her kids. The guy is not here anymore. So all of this escalation happened all because of, it started off him not being able to keep his hands to himself. And I do get it. When you go through things in your life, if you don't ever wind up facing it, if you just continue to put up with stuff and put up with stuff and build it and hide it, and then one day you snap off and wind up hitting somebody, I don't agree with it. But it's one of those things that I can honestly say that, I'm not a man. I don't know what it's like to be a man, but I see it all the time. Men, a lot of men, I can't say all men, but a lot of men were raised to not know how to control their emotions, to let themselves have feelings, to be able to vent it, to be able to cry. And they hold all of that until one day they just go buck. They go completely crazy. And then everybody will say, oh, what happened to them? There's something to be said. There's nothing wrong with shedding some tears and crying, but I get it. A lot of men were raised that they weren't allowed to cry. And if you cry, you're a punk. If you cry, you're this. If you cry, you're weak. But it's quite the opposite. That takes a really strong man. And I respect a man who can shed some tears when he needs to. I'm not talking about a man just being a person to not being able to control it, like crying all the time. I'm not talking about that. But, you know, it, men and women, everybody has feelings. Everybody has something that they're dealing with and going through. But it's never been like safe for men to be able to cry. Like if they cry, they'll say like, "Oh, don't cry. Stop crying. You're not supposed to cry. You're supposed to be a." I even used to see it when I was younger, with my brothers. Don't cry because you're a big boy. So all along, if you grow up thinking that it's not a safe environment for you to cry, when you have these feelings, and you have to push them down and always try to act like you're tough and strong, everybody is going to snap off at a certain point. And I can say for myself, I don't think that it's right. I think men should be allowed to have the same feelings as a woman, just like, but not go crazy. And on both sides, same thing for a woman. You should be able to cry, but don't go crazy on it all the time and just use crying as an escape for not dealing with your whatever you're doing. I believe in accountability on both sides for men and for women. I'm not letting nobody get away with nothing. It's one standard for everybody, but the system, the society doesn't set things up that way. They set it up to make it be like, oh, if you cry, you're weak, and it's quite the opposite. It's like when you're a man or you're a woman and you cry, they look at you like you're inferior, but that's not the case. Word says facts. Most dudes don't understand how to express their emotions. I used to be like that. Now I can, for the most part, control myself and my emotions. It's a process. Yeah, it's definitely a process. And I don't know what it's like to be a guy, because I'm not a guy. I'm a woman, but I can say on the opposite side, for women, it's like you're given free reign as a woman, that you can cry all the time. And if somebody says anything, it's like no, they're a woman, so they're allowed to cry. I don't agree with that either. I think it's not appropriate for a woman to be too soft either. Like, you need to woman up. You need to control yourself. You can't just go screaming at people and hide behind the label, as I'm a woman, so I have free reign to say and do whatever I want. And it don't work that way. It don't work that way on either side. Like, a man should be free to shed tears and to talk about his feelings. Same thing as a woman. But women also, let's be accountable and don't just be like, oh, because I'm a woman, I can cry. I can use this as a crutch. Anytime something doesn't go right, I'm going to say, you're making me emotional or I feel threatened. Let me tell you, I can tell y'all because I I am the type of person that let's just say it this way. I'm the type of person that feels like um I personally feel like, why do I get a pass and a man doesn't, you know? Hey, Mr. Terry, how are you? Oh, I'm not on Marlene Motivates. I'm on Life with Marlene, Mr. Terry. So I just feel like there's supposed to be one standard. Like, I am the most accountable person, even as a woman. Like, I think people need to learn to be checked. People need to learn to be checked. Men need to be checked and women need to be checked. Women, control yourself. Control your emotions. You can't just be like crying, crying, crying for everything. And the same thing for men. Like, it's okay, um men, to have feelings, to feel sad, to want to cry. There's nothing wrong with that. Because when you don't, I think that's when you get into like how it gets out of control, and then you start wanting to lash out. Because if you keep pushing down how you feel all the time, like, I can't feel a certain way, I'm supposed to be strong all the time, nobody can be strong 100% of the time. Everybody has to be able to have some free reign to, like, be sad, talk about how they feel, to be mad, to want to lash out and all of that stuff. But you got to have a safe space for you to talk about it. And I will say, you know, having been a person being in a very unhealthy and a toxic relationship where you your feelings were never justified on either side. Like, as a woman, like, if I ever said I wanted to talk about something, it was like immediately the men would be like, "Oh, I don't want to talk about emotions because I don't like how emotions make me feel," because I guess maybe it makes them feel some type of way on the inside because they're not used to communicating how they feel. And that's not a good thing either. You should always want to communicate how you feel, and it should be a safe environment for both. But what I learned going through therapy is that not a lot of people have emotional intelligence. A lot of people don't have emotional intelligence. Can you guys hear me? I just got a phone call coming in. A lot of people don't have emotional intelligence. Hold on one second. I'm going to mute to make sure. Okay. I just wanted to make sure the sound came back in because sometimes when you get a phone call, it messes up your sound. So, one thing that I learned in going through therapy is that you have to develop your emotional intelligence. It means that you have feelings. Um, no, it wasn't your phone acting up. It means that you have to have some emotional intelligence. And that means that you have emotions, you have feelings, but it's a time and a place to have feelings. And you have to learn how to talk about it. Hey, Nancy, how are you? Marlene, I can see and hear you. No lag, no echo. Awesome. Yeah, what I had to learn is that you have feelings. It's okay, men and women, that you have feelings and you can voice them, but in the right environment. You can't, like, be lashing out at people. You can't treat people in a nasty way and then hide behind the label. I'm speaking to the ladies. You can't hide behind the label as a woman. And the same thing, you can't be emotionless, like void of emotion, because you're a man. I'm being accountable on both sides. There's no one standard for both sexes. We have to level the playing field. We can't just say that because I'm a woman, I get to shout and scream and put my hands on a man and try to get the man and say, "Yeah, what are you going to do? You're starting stuff." And then when a man does something to protect himself, then you'll say, "He hit me and he's all in the wrong 100%." No, there's accountability. Don't start stuff, don't stir up something if you don't want to get the smoke. And on the other side, my gentleman, I'm very, like, I put on my kid gloves for the guys, because I think it's very unfair, the standards that a lot of men have been dealt with their whole life. They were never taught how to have feelings. It was always like, "You're a man, be tough, be tough, be tough." And when it's time to be soft, they don't know how to deal with that, because it was never a safe environment for them to be soft. So I try my best to be patient with men and try to give them the tools and to let the men understand, like, it's okay for you to have feelings. It's okay to talk about your feelings with the right people. You don't want to get clowned. Who would? As a woman, I don't like to get clowned. And as a man, I'm sure you don't want to get clowned as well. Accountability on both sides. And I think at the end of the day, it all starts with respect. respecting each other. Women don't start stuff with men. Don't rile them up. you know Learn to talk to a man the way that you would want to be respected. If you want to get respect, ladies, you also have to respect as well. And it's on the other side too. Men, I know that it's hard for you to maybe even talk about emotions. It may be a new concept for you to develop your emotional intelligence and to be like, this is how I feel. And it scares me to talk about feelings because this is new for me. But if you have the right people in your life, they'll listen to you, they'll be patient with you. And I think that that's important. That's right, Marlene. People like to overlook how many women continuously press a man's buttons as much as possible. Exactly, Anthony. I am not the type of woman that won't call people out. Like, on both sides, I will call out a woman because I know for myself, I used to do it. I was definitely the woman who liked to stir up stuff. Like, I would intentionally get a man upset and then be like, what are you going to do? You're not going to do nothing. So I was fanning the flames. And if you fan the flames, you better get used to what can happen to you, because not everybody's patient, not everybody has control. That you do one thing and then that's it with you. But also on the other side, I have to talk to the guys. Like, um, for men, it's about respect, and for women, usually it's about your emotions and feelings. So I like to say to the guys, how would you like to be disrespected? And they don't get that. Like, when I talk to other men that, like, I'm mentoring, I say it like that, because for you it's about respect. For us, a woman is about emotions. So think of, if a woman is trying to tell you something and then you shut down, you don't want to talk about it, you ignore them, you like, oh, that's stupid. For a woman, that is a form of being disrespected. A woman needs to be able to pour those things out of her so that she feels heard, that she feels protected, and she feels safe. And I can't say how it feels from a man's aspect, but I know that respect is very important for a man. And I say the same thing for ladies. Respect a man. Don't get in their face, and also don't use your emotions as like a label to hide behind. Like, cry every time you get upset about something. It's about maturity on both sides. For women, we have to learn to not use emotions as a crutch. It's not the only thing. We have to understand that men too have emotions and they have feelings, so let them have theirs. And also, I learned to not over talk a man. When he's talking, let him talk, let him have his opinion. And men too, let let a woman have her thoughts and opinions, while they may be different from yours. I think that's a very important conversation to have. Yes, we must respect the relationship. It must. And if it doesn't, that means that it's not a healthy relationship. That's how I feel. I feel like it's not a healthy relationship if it doesn't go both sides, because we always hear about, I'm the man and I demand respect. But if that man is not respecting also a woman's feelings, you can't, like, as a man, you can't be cold and, like, not listen to a woman, not try to be understanding and compassionate of how she feels, and then on the other side say, respect me, I'm the man, respect me. But you're not respecting the woman, how she feels too. So it's two sides. Like, I try my best to not be, what's the word? I try my best to not take sides because I'm a woman. I try to be, like, even keeled. Hey, Boss Life Online, welcome. How are you doing? Yeah. I think it's important to do that. It's important to see both sides of the equation and to not just be like, I think it definitely, it takes maturity, and two people have to be mature, in order for things to work out. Hey, realist, how are you? Welcome. Hey, Shay, how are you doing? And I do think it definitely takes maturity on both sides. Two people, I can say that for myself, being honest. When I've been in relationships before, I have definitely been the immature one. I'll just call it what it is. There's always you can be in different levels of your journey in your life. There was definitely times in relationship that I was the immature one, and I was with a mature man, and the thing that he was telling me, I didn't want to hear it because it meant for me to work on myself. It highlighted the things inside of myself. It highlighted my flaws, and that's when I would get upset and angry because what he was telling me was the truth. And I'm just going to say it, ladies, we get upset when a man will tell us the truth and we'll say, you're threatening me. You're being aggressive. No, they're calling you out. Because if you're with a good person, they're going to want you to be better. They're not just going to be like, just accept your bad behavior. If you're with a really good person, they're going to try to improve you and say, hey, why do you do that? Like, you don't have to do that with me. Well, maybe before, you do some things in order to protect yourself. I know I did. I hid behind this persona like I'm so strong and I'm so tough because I had to be in the relationship. Is sometimes as a woman, you have to be woman and man. You have to do more things than you should because you're not with a man. Um, I guess I'll say it like that. In romantic relationships, if you're not with the right person, if you're not what the Bible calls, if you're not equally yoked, if things aren't good on both sides, like it can't just be a woman doing everything, and on the other side, it can't be a man doing everything. Both have to come to the relationship and come to some sort of I'm trying to think of the word, some sort of agreement, like, you're very good at this and I want you to take care of this and I'll do that. But both of us, we come together and we add something to the relationship. There has to be mutual respect. There has to be the mutual respect, not just on the side of guys. Hey, DJ Ron, how are you? Welcome. It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Hey, Wellness, how are you? It's good to see y'all. There's a guy who has hit on me. He said he not hitting on you. He poked me in the face the other day and said cute dimples. Beware of that, Miss Roxanne. Hey, Uncle, how are you? Welcome in. Oh, you timed out, Frugal Mama. Oh, sorry about that, Frugal Mama. It was an accident. Yeah. Anybody who wants to come up, I can put the link in here if you all want to come up. Yeah, I think we've all done it, Word. We've all timed out somebody. But I feel like in relationships a lot of times we don't we put one side over the other because of our gender. We'll make rules and say this applies because it's beneficial to me, and I'm not that type of woman. Since I've been introduced to accountability, speaking the truth, being an honest person, I respect both. I respect both women and men. There's no woman side and there's no man side. All it is for me is the truth. And I understand that that takes a lot of maturity, and it does. It takes a lot of maturity to let it takes a lot of maturity to let the other person do what they're doing. I just wanted to put the link in the chat. I had to go on my other device because for some reason it won't let me put the link from my phone. But anyways, um, I find it difficult. Like I get upset as a woman when I see that women are being biased, just trying to use it as an excuse to get away with things, to say, oh, I can do this because I'm a woman and you can't do anything about it because you're a man. I think that there has to be a level playing field. I don't believe in saying things are a woman thing or saying things that are a man thing. I think it's a respect thing. Um, and I do think for a long time we've been letting women and also men get away with certain things just because of gender. And I don't like that. When something is wrong, it's wrong, whether you're a woman or whether you're a man. There's no like, oh, you can do this because you're a woman when you're wrong, or you can do this and you're wrong because you're a man. Okay, I'm listening, wrestling with my daughter. Okay, word. Um, so that's one thing that I definitely don't agree with. I don't agree with, like I was saying earlier about this case where, the man put his hands on the woman and she winded up unaliving him because of it. And I don't justify it, but I do think that there is cases where there's you know, justifiable unaliving, I guess you could say it. Just like that, it is justifiable in certain cases for me. I'm not telling other people what to do and what to think, but for me, I think everybody deserves to defend themselves. And I mean women and men, women and men. So if a woman is always putting their hands on a man and then the man protects himself, it can't just be saying, because he's a man, he can't defend himself. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's on both sides. If a man puts his hands on a woman and a woman protects herself, it's justified, and vice versa. So, also, I think I put in here also to talk about, the violence with children. I think right now it's like definitely out of control how girls are, not girls, just kids are violent in the school system, because I see a lot of things, where I see my nephew, I see other kids, the things that they're doing. It's like everybody has gone crazy with violence. Everybody has gone crazy. And I don't understand. Like, I'm like, what is going on? Why are kids acting this way? Is it because of, um, is it because video games that they're watching, entertainment on TV, social media, because kids are not able to get out and express themselves, go out and get that energy out? Or is it because the kids are bullied? We see it all the time on the news, these kids that are um, going back to the schools after they're bullied and using, some gun violence to come back because of how they've been treated, you know. And I don't justify any of it. You'll never hear me justifying, things that happen like that. But I do see a lot of times in schools, because it happened to me for years. You're bullied, by other kids. Teachers see stuff and they don't let kids, you know, um, there's no like zero tolerance for it. Like there's only so much a kid can be bullied, and the adults don't rally around and protect that child. I see it all the time. Like one student will do something to another, and the kid that acts out will be the one that gets in trouble, and the bully gets no consequences, which I don't agree with that. And then later on, when something happens and the kid comes back with gun, whatever, or does something and hurts the other person, then they become labeled as a violent person. Hey, King Morgan, how are you? Welcome. And that's definitely not something that I agree with. I don't think that it's a good thing for children to be able to get away with stuff. You know, way back in the day, they started to give kids the same consequences as adults. And I do think in certain instances that children need to learn, the same thing. Keep your hands to yourself. And I think sometimes it comes back to what's going on at home. They don't have a safe environment at home. The home environment can be toxic. Also, those kids are not receiving love at home. I always will say that when I see a kid being violent, acting up, doing some things that's wild or crazy, most of the time, those kids aren't being loved. They're not being listened to. They're not getting quality time with somebody in their family. It does not always have to be a mother or a father, but anybody showing that kid love, letting them have the freedom to talk about the things that is going on in their head and on their heart. There has to be a safe place for a child to fall. Because I can say that when I was growing up, I didn't have a safe place to say that I was being bullied at school, because I knew if I talked about I was being bullied, I knew it was going to get into more violence. I knew my brothers or sisters were going to roll up there. I knew my parents would have acted crazy. It wasn't a place where I felt safe to communicate how I was feeling and the things that I was going through. So it caused me to have some habits that I guess you could call them self-harming, instead of something that was positive. And I think everybody needs a positive outlet to talk about what they're going through, the things that they're dealing with. We all need to, but okay, here's something that I want to say and ask everybody. What do you all feel? Do you all feel that when parents discipline kids, by hitting them, that it it makes children want to do the same because they get hit, they want to hit somebody else? Where is the line to be drawn? Because I definitely grew up that way. That's how you discipline. You know, if you do something, you're going to get slapped, hit, something thrown at you. That's just how it was back in the day. My family, we didn't grow up having healthy ways of discipline. And I still go back to that sometimes because that's the way I was raised. I have to say that there's better ways to discipline other than hitting, but to each his or her own. I'm not telling anybody what to do in their home with their family and their kids, but my personal view is once I did something different with other people in my family, like younger ones in my family, that things were taken away, that conversations were to be had instead of immediately the first way to discipline, putting your hands and hitting a child. I do think that more conversations need to happen. And it can be that the kids, because that's what they're seeing at home, you do something to me, I get upset and I hit you. And then they go to school, somebody does something to them and they hit. They hit too. So I think that it could be something that, even as adults, we need to work on ourselves too, and get to the reason why is the first thing that when we get upset with a child, that we want to hit them. is hitting the only way to discipline. Um, I feel like that's a different conversation for another day, but I do think about that, because we were raised a certain way when we were growing up. Is that the only route? Is that like the only safe way? Because a kid does something is the only way to either hit with your hands or to hit with um, tools, instruments. And is that okay? I don't know. I don't know. To each his or her own. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'm just saying, as I matured and grew up, I learned that, you know, we have to not use that as the first alternative, that there's other alternatives. Of course, if it gets to that point where you've tried everything and they still have not got it, then, do your thing. You got to discipline. But my whole thing is learning to discipline with love. And I think that starts at home. It gets kids thinking and being accountable, and to not know that the first option is not always violence. Okay. So let me get back into, so we were talking about we're talking about violence and learning to keep our hands off one another. And I am seeing even now children are being violent to their own parents. I'm like, this is the craziest thing, because I didn't grow up that way. I didn't grow up, you know, I couldn't even think or dream to put my hands on my parents, even to think about putting my hand up to hit my mom, my father, or anybody in my family. Yeah. So that's what I did. I had to learn that the way that I was raised was not always the best way. As you grow up, as you mature, you you should elevate. You have better thinking, you have better ideas. And I can say for myself, I when I matured, so did my reasoning, so did my accountability. um, and I had to learn that, talk talk to a child, inform them, when you have this behavior, it's not good. You have to learn to be more patient, and you also show them the same thing, that I'm being patient with you right now because you're making me upset. Having conversations like that causes kids to have better thinking, and also it takes children into their adulthood. And I can say for myself, I didn't get those type of conversations. That when I got to be older, my first thought when I felt threatened about something was violence, like hitting somebody, using an instrument, throwing something at somebody, because that's how I was raised. And you can't use that as a crutch always. I think that's what I'm trying to say. You can't use the label that I was traumatized in my childhood, and this is what my parents did. This is what my family did to me. When we get older and we become adults, we can't use what happened to us as a past in the past as a past for our bad behavior. We can't use our traumas to say, "Oh, this is all I know," or "This is who I am." That's not good enough. We have to be accountable as adults. And I will say that a lot of children now, a lot of children um, don't get that. They don't have the parents that have the awareness to have conversations and to talk out how you feel. And as an adult, I learned that when I was way past grown, that it's time to have conversations and to not immediately try to be in attack mode. Try to think like, why is this person reacting this way? And I think that you have to be at a level of maturity to do that. And some never mature emotionally. They don't develop that emotional intelligence to even want to do that. And I get it. There are times where it's justified that you have to go there with people. You have to, protect yourself, because these people, they're going way past healthy boundaries, and now it's to the point where I have to protect my life. Then that's a whole different scenario. But I think I think that that's a whole different scenario, that there's levels to things. Oh, thank you so much, Nancy. Appreciate that. Um, there's levels to things that, you you have conversations like, I don't like how you're talking to me. Um, I'm not going to tolerate it. And then it's like, you're going to stop. You're not going to treat me that way. But then it gets to the point where, if it's to where you feel threatened, you feel like your safety is on the line, then I definitely would say that you got to do what you got to do, because you have to protect yourself. And anybody is free to hit the link to share your opinion. I agree, Marlene. You have to stop the cycle. You you have to stop the cycle. You have to make a change. People are getting locked up because they are still in the violent cycle they learned from home. Yes, Geo. Yes, yes, yes. And that's what I'm talking about. I personally took it seriously, like one day, when like immediately like something happened, and it wasn't even like a big deal, but it was like immediately I went to try to harm them with violence, and it wasn't even something like a big deal, and people are like, you're crazy. But that's how I used to protect myself, because that's what I was raised in, that environment. If someone threatens you, then you yell and you scream and you use an instrument, but you got to protect yourself. And that's not the only way to protect yourself. You can also have conversations, but it's levels to things. That there are times to have conversations, and there is time for you to use an instrument and protect yourself physically, if you understand that a conversation is not good enough. Okay, thank you all for engaging in this conversation. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, Nancy, we are all learning as we grow, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing about it, Nancy, is that we have to want to grow. But I can say honestly, because I'm an accountable woman, there was times when I was like I think about 19 years old, where I didn't want to grow. I wanted to be miserable. I wanted to be stuck. I wanted to get out all my anger. I wanted other people to suffer like I had suffered. I was just mad, because I was mad about the things that happened to me, and I wanted other people to be mad like I was. But at a certain point in my life, I said to myself, you have to be accountable, and I started saying to myself, this is not good, and you have to do better than that. You can't expect everybody to always walk around on eggshells with you. And I can say for sure that's the type of woman that I used to be. I always wanted everybody, for me, to be like, I can do what I want, but you can't do what you want. If that's how you guys, how I want to say it. You can't just say, I'm going to do what I want, but you can't do what you want. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, word. It's levels. It's levels to everything. It's levels to everything. You can't you can't disrespect other people and then you get upset because someone is giving you back what you're putting out there. You can't act crazy and not expect to get crazy. You can't be wild and don't expect for you to get wildness back. There's a give and there's a take. There's an action and there's a reaction. So that's one thing that I definitely learned in therapy, that you can't be toxic and don't expect to get back toxic. Like the Jamaican saying, you beg for it and you get it. When you ask for things, then you're going to receive it, and don't think, oh, why is this happening to me? And acting like a victim. Oh, I'm a victim. Oh, don't do anything to me, even though I've done everything wrong. I've stabbed people in the back. I've I've made trouble, but you better not do anything to me because I'm a woman, and that would be wrong. Mm-mm. It don't work that way. It don't work the way. Mm-mm, at all. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it goes. Yes, Lovey. Yes, absolutely. Hey, Urban, how are you? Welcome. Good to see you. Oh, it's all good, Terry. Don't worry about it. Everybody understands. And that's something that I had to learn. I know it's not something that most women want to talk about, but I don't have any problems talking about it. I was a bitter, nasty, angry, violent woman. And that was mine. I had to own that. And I had to also own that I was immature and that I needed to grow up. I needed to learn how to communicate. I needed to learn to take ownership of my life. I couldn't keep hiding behind my feelings. I couldn't put my hands on somebody and then get upset that, that they would hit me back or that they would do something later. It was like I would start some mess. I would talk a lot of noise. And then when something would happen to me, I would blame them. It's accountability for yourself. Don't start stuff with people. you know if you're a peaceable person, for the most part you'll get that peace back, but you can't be a drama person. You can't stir up the pot. You can't put gossip out there. You can't lie on other people. You can't do wrong to other people and don't think you're not going to get back the consequences of your action. Like I said, there's a reaction for every action. If you act right, for the most part, you'll get right back. And, I understand that there's some people out here who are mentally off. It's people out here who just were just like I was. And I see it all the time. I look at other women and I go, she's just like I was, angry at the world for no reason. But you have to want to fix that inside of yourself. You have to be at that point in your life where you're sick and tired of being angry. I know I was. I used to, like, when I tell you that I have been made brand new, I have. The woman that I am today, I'm a very calm individual. I'm patient. I'm understanding of other people. Like, even my voice, I'm chill. Where I used to be the most hood, the most hood, you could say, could the hood rat individual that you would ever meet. But that's not me anymore. And to each his or her own. If that's what somebody wants to be, then I'm not a judgmental person. I don't judge people. I let people be who they are. But also, I'm not going to let a person who's toxic make me go back to who I was, make me go back to when I used to, be violent. I used to start stuff. I was miserable. I didn't forgive other people. I don't want to go back to who I was. I want to improve. I want to be a better person. And that's why I like to do my motivational things, because it continuously reminds me of who I have become. Yeah, you're right, Terry. Yeah. Yeah, we all make mistakes and do wrong, but my whole thing about this was, learning that violence is not the first resort. I think that's what I can say for myself. I had to learn to, you can't put your hands on other people. And that's how it was. That's how I was raised, with my Jamaican parents. Like, and somebody come with it, you better come with your fists. And I understand that there are times for that. There's levels for that, but you can't be on 10 100% of the time, you know? Um, you can't be on 10. And that's how I was. I was on 10 at all times. Like, like, walk down the street and somebody would just look at me like, what? You want some of this? Like, I'll give it to you. That's how I was at all times. I always was looking at everybody like they were trying to attack me. I was always on like that chihuahua, always ready. Like, come on, you can get it. You want some of this? And it's not that good to be that way all the time. Like, my blood pressure used to be high. I was much heavier than I am right now. I was very miserable. I was very sad. I was depressed. A lot of issues. I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of scarring. I had a lot of traumas. And because I didn't deal with my traumas, it that was my personality. My personality was a reflection on how I felt about myself. And because I was miserable on the inside, my outside, I was on 10. I was aggressive. I was mean. I was ready to anybody. I was ready to scrap. It didn't matter who it was. It didn't matter your size. I was ready to fight anybody, male, female, come on, bring it, you know. But I had to stop that. I had to stop it because that's not that at a certain level. Like, I had to learn to be an adult. Awesome, Boss Life Online. Thank you so much. um I had to learn that for myself to grow up for myself. I'm not telling anybody else what to do, but for myself, I had to stop being miserable. I had to stop being a miserable woman, because that's what I was. And it's not a good feeling. I can't speak on a man because I'm not a man, but I can't imagine, when you go through things, when you've been beaten down so much, like I was beaten down, like no self-esteem. Nobody respected you. Nobody listened to your opinions. I didn't have any coping skills. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to treat other people. And especially, I didn't know how to treat myself. I think that was the biggest thing. And that's why I went all the way to violence, because of it. And if you don't have the tools in your life, you think that this is all I can have. But I'm so grateful that I have the tools now. Don't forget. I have the tools. I know how to go back to my former. When I need to protect myself, I know how to throw hands. I know how to throw hands. I know how to use all my tools. I know how to use all those instruments still, but I don't use that as a first resort. Yes. Thank you so much, Terry. I appreciate it. How did I deal with the trauma? Well, first of all, the first thing that I had to do is the first step in coping with your trauma is accepting whatever happened to you. Hey, TSM, welcome. That's the first thing that I had to do, Uncle. I had to accept that, some traumatic things happened to me in my life. And that's how it started for me. I had to accept that, that I had some bad things happen to me. People did bad things to me. And also on the same accord that I did bad things too. So you have to accept this is what people did to me, but also this is what I did too. I did some wrong things too. And then I had to work on letting the things go that I did, healing that, being accountable and say, I did this. And then ask myself, why did I do this? You have to get to the root of why you did the things that you did. Why were you a miserable individual? Because I didn't think I had the option to have joy. I didn't think that I had the option to have peace. I didn't think that I could be a good friend. I didn't think that I could be honest, because growing up, it was more comfortable for me to tell lies. It was more comfortable for me to be an attention seeker. It was more comfortable to hide behind being a girl or being a woman. All of those things were easier for me. Now, when I had to grow up and to take ownership and say, you have to tell the truth, you have to be a good friend, you have to take ownership, you have to show up when you're supposed to show up, you have to follow through. When you say you're going to do something, start it and finish it. So it's taking ownership of all of that part too, but also forgiving other people that have done wrong to me, and for me, that was the hardest part. Forgiving other people who had wronged me. Um, that was tough because I didn't want to. Because some of the people who had done things to me, they were no longer alive. So how do you forgive people and you can't talk to them and say, you did this to me or you did that to me? And I struggled with that for a while, but I had to learn that forgiveness, like me saying it out loud, I forgive you, was giving myself the freedom and the permission to let it go so that I could move on. So I had to say that out loud for everybody who had hurt me. I had to say it out loud. I forgive you for what you did to me. And I'm not going to let you hold me hostage anymore. I'm going to release it and I'm going to let it go so that I can have the permission to thrive. And once I did that, I got my power back. Because when you don't forgive other people for the things that they have done to you, they have power over you. They have power over your mind. And it's a control mechanism. They have control over your mind. We think when we harbor resentment and when we don't forgive people, we feel like well, oh, I'm just not going to talk to them. I'm just going to be mad at them and I'm going to be angry. And we think that we're hurting them, but we're actually hurting ourselves. Because when you do that, you stop yourself from having a clear mind, from being able to do things. It affects your health, and it affects your other relationships. Because when you're upset with one person, you definitely take it out on other people, whether you realize it or not. And that's something I definitely had to learn to control that. I had to learn to control myself and control how I was showing up for other people, because you can't be good to other people until you learn to be good to yourself. So, yeah, yeah, all of that. Let's see, any comments? Hey, TSM, how are you? Welcome. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for stopping by. And everybody who's here, I would appreciate a like if you have not already. Thank you so much for your support, everybody. Yeah, you have to do it for yourself. That's what I will say. Um, and I think it's the best gift that I ever gave myself. I started off going to therapy to find a way so that I could stop being violent. That was my first thing. I was such an angry woman, like angry, bitter, nasty, toxic. My mouth was filthy. When I say my mouth was filthy, I mean filthy. Every other word that came out my mouth was profanity. Beep this and beep this and beep you and beep you and beep, 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 beep all day long. And it showed up in my actions, because if you have that type of vernacular, that type of vocabulary, it follows with your actions. Because you were saying all of these profanity words, my actions was the same thing. That's how I was with my life. I was stuck. I wasn't following through. I wasn't doing anything good or big because my actions caused me to be stuck. You can't get to another level in your life until you let that go. Until you let things go, until you let yourself be free of things. Now, because I forgave them, then I had to do the hardest work, working on forgiving myself. Like, it's so hard to forgive other people and to let them go. And some people, you forgive them and you want to keep them in your life because they're healthy. But some people, you have to forgive them, and some people you have to forgive them and let them go, and other people you forgive them and you hope that they'll keep you around because of the things that you have done. So in my forgiveness part, I had to be accountable for what I did to myself, but also what I did to other people. So this was the time where I had to go back and try to heal, make attempts to heal relationships where I had done wrong, be accountable. I did this, and this, and I'm so sorry. and I hope that you will forgive me. Uh, yeah, yeah, Uncle. The whole thing about it is letting it go. Okay, yeah, that was for me too. It's so hard to let things go, but you will little by little. You find that the more that you start, the more you begin to love yourself, the more that you become more peaceable, the more that you become kind to yourself and compassionate, the more you see yourself as a human being and not a perfect person. That's something that I was doing for myself. I used to act like I was a perfect person. And also, the same thing, I was directing that energy to other people too, that they were perfect. So, of course, when somebody did something to me, I had an unreasonable standard. You can't expect other people to be perfect because they're not. So I was always setting up myself to be disappointed. When I start to look at people, they're a human being. They make mistakes, and so do I. I make mistakes. And felt so much freedom and peace. Like I was able to get so much things off my back and my heart, that I didn't expect things from other people that I didn't expect of myself. Hmm. I didn't expect more from others that I wasn't willing to do for myself. And it does take maturity to do that. It takes honesty. It takes humbling yourself. Yeah, all of that, Uncle, all of that. Yeah, it was amazing transformation, Nancy. I can say that. Even all people who knew me years ago, those who knew me about 7 or 8 years ago, they're like, your transformation is amazing. Like, who are you even? Because now I walk around, I smile, I greet people, I tell people have a good day. Whereas before I'd be like, what you looking at? What's your problem? Like, that's who I was. But now because I've worked on the inside of me, I'm not violent and aggressive anymore unless I have to. That's the thing. Don't get it twisted. I know how to flip. I know how to flip, but it's a justifiable violence. Like, I'm not going to go there until I know that I have to do that to protect myself physically or other people who are in my care. If I have to protect them, then yeah, then I'm going to do that part. But for the most part, I try to stay in my calm, in my zen space, and just be accountable for me, because that's all I can do. I had to learn that I can't be accountable for anybody other than myself. And that was tough for me. When you like look at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see. Yeah, that it was that part. Like when you look at yourself and you be like, oh my God, I'm a monster. I'm a monster. You're pointing at other people and you're saying you're this, you're this, you're this, but also, what am I? Who am I? How do I treat other people? So it was all that. I was taking it all in, dissecting it, and being accountable and humbling myself and saying, it's time to grow up. And for me, I'm not saying for anybody else, for me, mine was learning to trust God more. I understand everybody's not a believer, it's not their belief system, but I'm just saying what worked for me is I had to learn to get closer to God. That helped me. Closeness to God and humility and maturity. My biggest problem was letting go. Now I focus on bigger things. With me, with me, the what does that say? With me, that I didn't let go usually kept me from the things I truly desired. Yeah, I get that word. Sorry, I can't really see it because I'm on my phone and the words are so small, even though I have my glasses. Yeah, I understand that part. Word, that used to be me. Um, what I learned is when I was holding onto the resentment, not only for others, but also myself, because I wouldn't let myself forgive. I wouldn't forgive myself. I wouldn't forgive other people. But when you do that, you hold yourself back from progressing. You hold yourself back from having healthy relationships. You hold yourself back from peace. And I just had to have my time where what it depends on you, what works for you. I had to have my time where I grieved and I let things go and I cried and I said, this is a new me and I'm scared. I'm scared to be a strong person. I don't know how to be strong. I don't know how to be a humble person. I don't know how to be courageous. But I just take things one day at a time and do the best that I can for me. You know, when you show up as your true and authentic self, you can't help but be happy. That's one thing that I learned is I had to learn to be okay with me. And the more that I did that, I started drawing people who were like-minded, who love themselves. Because when you let go of people who don't love themselves and people who are disrespectful and people who aren't accountable and they're disrespectful and all of those things and they're not trying to improve themselves, the more that I let go of those people, I began to draw people who were aware of who they were as a woman and a man. And I started to find more enlightened people, people who are strong, people who were positive. And as I started to trust the process, trust my awareness, and walk in my life with courage, I began to find more people who were doing the same, people who were having a walk with themselves, a walk of maturity. Yeah. And so that part word. And I have to say that to everybody who's trying to improve themselves and be better, like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I found letting go when I release something and having something to replace it with. For example, getting rid of a shirt with holes by buying a new shirt. Yeah. That's one thing that I had to do too, Terry. And this is the same thing with when I was shifting from that negative attitude to developing a positive attitude. What worked for me was instead of yelling at somebody, like I loved that I now uh, have the vernacular. Now I have the tools. Now I have the emotional intelligence that I can back up from being violent. That now I replace it with peace. I love that I can be by myself, whereas before, I'm telling y'all, I could not be alone. I always had to be in a group with other people because when you're in a group of people and you're miserable, you, you don't have time to listen to that noise inside of your head that tells you you need to work on yourself. You need to make changes. But when you're the more that you not isolate yourself, but the more that you take time by yourself, you give yourself time to think about yourself and what you're about and who you are. And am I growing? Am I doing the things that I want to do? And it was in that time period where I let myself be in silence in my meditation, thinking about myself and my maturity. And these were the times where I encouraged myself. And I encourage everybody to take their time to meditate. It is so important to take your time to meditate and just say, man, look at how you're growing. Like, and these are the times where I encourage myself. I have full conversations with myself. You know, you did this and I'm proud of you, and you did that. And now you've healed that. Now let's try and work on this. In your meditation time is when you encourage yourself. In that quiet space is when I acknowledge myself. I acknowledge my strengths. I also acknowledge my weaknesses and then say, oh, we're going to work on this next. And because you can't wait for other people to encourage you. That's definitely something I learned as I matured and I gained more emotional intelligence and also improving my mental health. that there's certain gifts that I must give myself. Yeah, that part. I had to learn that. I had to give myself a gift of love. I definitely had to do that part for myself. It's definitely hard to make changes, but also very much worth it. Exactly, Nancy. It's so worth it to do it for yourself. I agree. We have to surround ourselves with people who inspire us. Yes, and I think I well, for me, it wasn't hard for me to get rid of people in my life. That wasn't the hard part. The hard part was after I removed them from my life, not going back and finding somebody just like them. And you will do that if you don't fix your thinking. And I believe that's why you keep choosing the same type of friendships and the same type of romantic relationships that are toxic. If you don't fix yourself on the inside, you can't look at things by a healthy standard. You're if you're still in toxicity in your thoughts, you're going to that's what you're going to only see. So once you fix your your mindset, once you fix loving yourself, humbling yourself, being kind to yourself, learning compassion, learning the talents that you have on your inside, that's how we gain the courage to keep going. Yeah, it's all of that. So having this conversation and talking about keeping your hands to yourself. I can't not have this conversation and not talk about we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, talking about domestic violence. And I think it's a big problem, you know. And when people think about domestic violence, I understand it. I get it why people only think about domestic violence involving women, but there are men out there that are being abused. There's men out there being unalived, and it's like it's hidden. It's like it's something embarrassing that a man that shouldn't happen to a man. No, it happens to men and women. It's just a lot of times men hide it because they they don't want to other people to find out what's going on with them. They don't want to get the judgments, a lot of reasons. So, you know, when you're in a romantic relationship and it's toxic, I understand, I get it because I've been in that situation. And when you're in those situations with domestic violence, it's like they break you down until you're nothing. It's like you're almost dust. You're not even a full particle of dust. That's how broken you are. They break down your self esteem. You feel like you're nobody. You feel unheard because they isolate you from your family or friends. They make everything about you. Uh, you know, most of the time you're not working, so you don't have money to get out. Um, it's a lot of things that happen. So I want to dedicate a part of this segment, and talking about violence to those who have got hands laid on them, and not in a good way. I'm not talking about the biblical laying hands on. I mean the laying hands, physical altercations. Um, and if you start to see like some breakdown in the relationship, like first it becomes some verbal abuse. I can say, just like that story I shared, because it mirrored exactly what I went through. First it starts getting to be that emotional abuse, the verbal abuse, telling you you're stupid, you're not about anybody, nobody would like you, nobody would want you, you can't do anything right, and then it starts to be like you're ugly. They're chipping away at your self-esteem little by little until they have you at zero, so that they have you so weak that you can't even leave. because you're so dependent on their negativity. You're so dependent on them to give you everything you need because you don't have anybody. You've isolated yourself. You're isolated from your family. You have no money. You can't get out. And then the physical wounds, when you see that, it makes you even feel worse. Excuse me. It makes you feel even worse when you go through those things, because you feel like, this is what I am now. This is my situation, and you feel like it can never improve and get better. So anybody, I'm speaking to men and I'm speaking to women. If you are in a situation where you don't feel safe at home, get out. And you don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to tell the person that you're with. We had a case in my own city that just happened just, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, probably 3 or 4 blocks away from my house. And it was that situation where the guy unalived the the woman of his children, and you know, unalived her. And it was the parent, his parent, that took her body and throw it in the lake. And I think it's an alligator. I don't think it's a crocodile. It's an alligator ate her body. So just brutal on top of brutal on top of brutal. And I really don't like to talk about domestic violence, but it's a real thing. It's something that's happening every day. And you may hear, like, if you where you live, you may hear it, like from neighbors, the arguments. And I understand we don't want to get involved in certain things, but sometimes that person may not be strong enough to speak up for themselves. When you're in that state, I definitely believe if I didn't have my brother, um, I would not be here right now. It was my brother who was like, I haven't seen you for months. I haven't heard your voice. Like, I need to see you. And if I don't see you, I'm coming by. And if you see like some things that is like weird, like you're not seeing them anymore, they're not talking to you, they can't have conversations with you, they don't come to family get-togethers or friend outings, and something could be going on. Don't think that because a lot of times they will isolate themselves, not because they want to, but because they have to, and because they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed that, they have scars, both physical and emotional. I found that even after the wounds, the scars of the physical scars, from the violence, that trauma, after you get, that those hits and those punches and all of those things, it's what happens afterwards. It's that verbal abuse that lasts way longer. So you have to be supportive of another individual, and let them know that you're here for them. Just assure them of your love. Because they definitely, when you go through that, you definitely don't feel loved, and you definitely don't feel like you love yourself. So be kind to them and be supportive of them, everything that they may need. Hold on a second, guys. I have to take a sip of water. They may feel like nobody. And I'm telling you, I think it's the worst feeling in the entire world, to feel like you're nobody. It's the worst. It's worse than any feeling that you can ever have as a human being, to feel that you're worse than dirt. Especially when you look at yourself in the mirror, you got scars on your face. Well, it depends on if how the person is, because a person could be in a domestic violence relationship and they will never hit you where other people can see, because they want you to be around everybody, you know. For myself, it was never that I got scars in my face or things like that until the end part of the violence. But in the beginning, it was always they only would hit me where could be covered up by clothing. And I feel like that's some narcissist thing, that they knew that they were going to hit me, but it was planned hits that people would be able to see, because if I put on clothes, you couldn't see that until my clothes were off, or I knew and they knew. So it's all of those things. So yeah, that part. And you don't have to tell the person that you're leaving. That's what I struggle with a long time. Like, how am I going to tell them I want to leave? When you finally feel strong enough to leave, you need someone to support you and to say, like, I'm going to help you. I'll help you pack a bag. I'll give you a plane ticket. I'll do. They need to know that you're going to be supportive of them because they're scared. Assure them that they're not alone. But I had to get that part out, that, it's not never justified to put your hands on somebody unless you are protecting yourself. Yeah. So I'm just going to go to the last part where I want to talk about, because I'm here trying to work on my watch time hours. I'm trying to get 2 hours over here. So anybody who can come up and talk on this topic and share your thoughts. If anybody has, let me put this on mute for a second. I had to put the link back in the chat, and the only way I can do that is on my tablet. My phone is weird. So yeah, everybody. I wanted to go back and talk about the end part of this, where we're talking about in the community. I think that's the one that we usually see a lot. We see it on the news a lot. And we just saw something recently about, you know, uh, a guy who puts his hand on a woman, and it was the child who protected their mother um, from the violence. And I just got to ask, like, what do you think the issue and the problem is, where people think that it's okay, when you go out on the road in the streets, that it's okay to put your hands on another person because you're upset with somebody. Hey, Bill, how are you? Welcome. Good to see you. Welcome in. Ooh, why do you think that? Why do we think that it's okay to put our hands on one another? I've seen cases of road rage, and because of how a person is driving, another person will get out of their car, drag a person out of their car, and beat them up because they cut them off on the road. Or in the store, people will push one another because maybe they skipped ahead in line. Like, what is going on? Why people think it's okay to put their hands on one another? And I'm seeing it more and more these days, that people have just gone completely wild and lost their mind by hitting another person, women and men. That, like, way back in the day, it used to be a thing, like, there's no way that a woman would hit a man, or there's no way that a man would hit a woman. Like, there was common courtesy, and we would like, no, you go ahead and just what I would call chivalry. Um, and I know that chivalry is not dead, because there are a lot of men and women out here who are very respectful of one another, and they will extend courtesy to one another. But like, what is happening, why people feel that it's okay to not be courteous to one another? Is it because they're just a rude person? Is because they have some things going on? Or is it because people are entitled? um, that's what I personally think. I think some people think that they are better than other people, and they don't have to wait for anybody else, and they can do whatever they want to do. I don't think that that's right. You know how, like, we've seen it all. They go in the store and they want the cashier to hurry up because they have somewhere to go, or they're driving crazy and on the road because they left late, and it's everybody else's fault that they don't speed up and go faster because they're running 10 to 15 minutes late when they should have woke up and left on time. It's all of those things that I personally think a lot of people are just not accountable for themselves. They're not mature, and they like to put their hands on one another. Some people like violence, and they watch violence on TV. They're around people who are violent. Yeah, the link is in the chat, Terry, and they will want to do everything to hurt another person, another individual. But I don't think that it's fair. And then they will want to say that they want to say, like, oh, I hit them because of their actions. What do you all think about that? Do you think that it's fair that a person, because if they have a bad attitude or they say something, does it justify another individual getting away with things? Does that make it okay? Does it make it okay because somebody said something to another person? Does it make it okay for another person to do what they want? Does that make it right, or does it make it wrong? Um, I don't know. That part I don't know. I try to be a neutral person. I try my best to not make judgments about other people, and to tell other people how they should feel, because everybody is going through different things. People have been through certain things, and I know that certain things that people do will trigger, that it will trigger something inside of you. I can say for myself, I'm a person, I don't like yelling. Anybody who didn't know that. So if I'm in a chat and people start yelling, that triggers something on the inside of me because of situations that happened to me in my childhood. So I just try my best to not be around that. I don't like yelling. I don't like anger. I don't like when people are talking about somebody else. That's not my vibe. I've kind of moved on from that, because I'm trying my best to have live in peace. I'm trying to keep my peace. I'm trying my best to be happy. And I understand, you get upset and mad about things, but that's just not Marlene. That's all I have to say about that. Like, I don't choose to be violent, though I can be, if the situation calls for it. I try not to be, but I can be. But I see, like, sometimes, like, when people will beat up on somebody who is vulnerable, right? um, like a man who's very tall and big beating up on a lady, or an adult beating up on a kid, or something like that. Or I this one that I see violence all the time working in the medical field. And while I can't say too much because that's a HIPAA violation, but um, I've seen scenarios where um, you see the elderly abuse um, because some people in healthcare, because they're so overwhelmed, and because, let's be honest, patients sometimes they say the wrong things, they do things, and it doesn't justify it, doesn't make it right. But if you have to know why you're doing the job that you're doing, and if you find that people are being disrespectful to you, you can always choose to walk away. But there are times I've seen things like the patients become violent with the healthcare worker, and then the healthcare worker not only reacts, but they put hands on the patient or the elderly person because of what they said and what they did. So I have seen violence and abuse in the healthcare area because of things just like that. People don't know how to talk to one another. People are disrespectful. Um, I've even seen it where, like, especially if a person loses their job behind somebody else, what somebody else is doing, and they're trying to protect themselves and they lose their job, then that person comes back. And we've all seen the scenario. They come back and then they become violent, and they use weapons to unalive people at the job. We only ever see the violence that happens, like the after effects, but nothing is ever done about the ones who are the bullies, the ones who make the lives of the person either at the job, at school, or at the home like unbearable. I like to think about that too. Like, what did that person go through before they made a decision to what would I say? Before they made a decision to react to that and try to protect themselves by using an instrument or a tool. And then when it gets to the point where the person that was a victim, you know, unalives another person, then everybody wants to say how they're crazy. Uh, that's something that I don't get. Uh, that's something that I don't get for myself. I don't get when people um, don't talk about all the things that they've done. Like, I've seen when people have been in a domestic violence relationship for years, and they've gone to doctor's appointments, they've told family, they've told friends, and nobody does anything to help them. So, I don't justify it, but I think everyone after a while has a breaking point. Um, Everybody can only deal with so much, and then after a while they get tired of the lies, the violence, the abuse, the verbal abuse, the the emotional toxicity. They get tired of all of that, and I can speak from experience. You get tired of always being the browbeating, like nothing that you do is ever appreciated, and everything that you do is wrong, and it's only so much you can take when it comes to verbal abuse before you're going to react. And it's only so much that you can take when someone's physically violent and putting their hands on you before you go and do something back to them. There are some times where you can avoid being violent, and there's sometimes that you can't. Um, Sometimes you do have to step up to the plate and guard and protect yourself. Because that was the issue that I was having. growing up and being a person who is spiritual minded, it's like you feel that you, because you love God, that you have to take so many things that people do to you. And I had to learn that that has nothing to do with things. That relationship that you have with your higher power, that's yours. That's what you're making a decision to have. But he does, you know, God wants us to love ourselves. And if somebody is showing up in our life abusing us, being toxic to us, that's not a good environment for us. So we also have to stand up for ourselves. We also have to protect ourselves. And yeah, and we also have to speak up and protect the ones that can't protect themselves. Working in that medical field, getting back to that part, I have to be an advocate for those who can't speak. We sometimes have to be the voice of the voiceless. And that's a topic that I'm going to cover. I'm not going to get in this too deep, but that's going to be a topic for another day. But those who can't speak up for themselves, we have to speak up for them. There are those who are nonverbal, like they have nonverbal people who have special needs. There's babies, there's elderly, and also women or men that are so broken down because of all of the things that has happened to them, that they have no strength and no courage to fight, like they've given up. So somebody has to speak up and protect those individuals. And I get upset when I see somebody, like if I'm out in public and I see a man shouting at a woman, being disrespectful to her, you know, saying things to her that she's stupid and she can't do anything right. Like it automatically snaps me back to the time when I heard those same things. And while you may not be able to do everything to help them, but somebody has to intercede. Somebody has to interject, especially when it comes to somebody putting their hands on another person. And I know I didn't put this in the topic, but one thing that I'm sick of seeing too is violence on animals. Um, Nobody, I really don't hear people talking about it, but I've seen it. There's a lot of neglect that happens with pets, and I've seen it, you know, cats, dogs. Um, and I like to always say, if you can't take care of an animal, don't get one, or you can surrender that animal to a shelter. But don't have a pet and you never spend time with it, or you're abusing it, you're hitting that pet, you know, you're denying that pet food. It's a lot of ways that we can be abusive even to animals. I don't like that. I'm an advocate on all levels. I advocate for women, I advocate for men, I advocate for pets, I advocate for special needs, the elderly, all of it. And I just, it's no, it's a no for me. And I'm so glad that now that they have a division um, of the police that goes for, you know, when animals are being abused. I can't think of the term right now, but animal services, some type of animal services, that if pets are being abused, that they'll come and they'll find out, and then actually these people are starting to get arrested, and they're serving time for abusing animals. Like, it's a no. If it's too much pressure for you to handle having a pet, you need to get rid of the pet and give it to a loving home, somebody who will actually love and care for that pet. So yeah, that part. I've seen it before. I've seen people chain their pets outside all day. Like, that's a no. They don't have water and they don't have food. It's more than just physical violence when it comes to violence. There's emotional violence, talking to one another. So I want to talk about this before I tap out of this conversation. How we talk to each other is a real thing. Um, I'm tired of hearing women and men calling each other, profanity words. You're this and you're that. You know, just very disrespectful, and thinking that they can say and do things without consequences. And people will say that they can say whatever they want to without consequences, but you got to understand that everybody is not on the same page. And by saying a certain thing, that you can trigger somebody to go all the way off and unalive you. So don't think that you can say anything that you want to say to another person and not get consequences. Respect goes both ways. Respect goes both ways. And we have to respect, women respect men, men respect women, and children respect other adults. Older people respect younger people, respect people who are caregivers, even your pets. People say that it's not true, but I think pets do have feelings, just like us. They have feelings and they want to feel loved just like we do. So, love your pets, love other animals, love other people, because I feel like this is an important conversation to have. This is something important to talk about. Don't be violent with one another. Keep your hands to yourself. If somebody triggers something inside of you, stay away from them. Um, Stay away from them. I hate to see when women, like backbiting and hitting one another, like, because unfortunately sometimes I can speak on this part because I've experienced it. Sometimes women, they want to put their hands on you because they're jealous of what you have. I will say that. Um, and they won't say that, but I know that's what it is because I used to be there. I would look at another woman, and I was jealous about what she had, what she's doing, because I wasn't doing anything. Let's call it out and put it out there in the atmosphere. When you see somebody doing something great, instead of trying to elevate yourself and trying to do better for yourself and having something great for yourself, they try to go and disrupt what you have and try to say, you think you're better or you think you're this. No, it's nothing to do with that. All of that is projection. They're projecting their fears onto you because they won't get up and do something for themselves. They won't try something new. And yeah, that person can be great when they say you think you're all that. Yes, they probably are. They probably are all that. So, ladies and gentlemen, go out there and go get your own bag. Go get your own business. Do something great for yourself. Love on yourself. Find yourself some good friends. At the end of the day, it's about the life that you are choosing to live, the life that you're choosing to have. What kind of life do you want to have for yourself? And for myself, I had to learn that too. I had to learn to want to have a great life for myself. And I didn't understand that that was within my reach, that um, I had the potential to have a great life. I had the potential to be great. But it took me working on myself and saying, you could be a wonderful woman. You can have great things. You can have your own business. You don't have to be jealous of that another woman has another business. And if you want to have a great romantic relationship, go and find yourself a great person too. You don't have to be envious that another person has a good relationship, or you don't have to be jealous of the friendships that other people have. Go and get yourself some good friends. Anything that you want in your life, you can have it. So we don't have to project all of our fears that we have, the things that we're not doing in our life, And because we're choosing to be miserable, because we're choosing to not try, we're choosing to not have a business, we're choosing to not go after, our paper, we're making those choices. So I'll just say it like this: we're making those choices to be the way that we are. I know I was, and once you start to be honest with yourself and say, I'm a miserable person. I don't want to be miserable anymore. I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to go after my paper. I'm going to get myself a business. I'm going to heal. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to go and do what I want to do. Like, I'm going to go after my hopes and my dreams. Yeah. That's what I had to do for myself. And the more that you get focused on working on yourself, you don't have time to worry about what another individual is doing. And I feel that way, that when you glow up, glow up. Huh. Once you start elevating your mind and your thoughts and you're about your business, you don't have time to worry about other people and their business. Yeah. So it's all that part. So I just want to come in and cover this topic, talking about, violence that's happening in the aspect of children, in romantic relationships, with kids, in the community. And even we even talked a little bit about animals and stuff. So, people, please keep your hands to yourself. If you don't like what somebody is doing or saying, stay away from them. You don't have to deal with nobody if you don't want to. Respect yourself and love yourself enough to know that if you don't like certain individuals, stay away from them. Stay away. I had to learn that too. If I don't like somebody, then I just won't go around you. I just won't be around you. But I rock with who I rock with. I rock with people who are mature, people who are about their business, about their paper, and they're not afraid to go and get it. They're not afraid to start something new. That you could be at a point in your life where things just aren't working for you, and you could be having some difficulties. But I like when a person can start fresh and they're not afraid to say, I'm going to start again from the ground up, and I'm going to grow my business. I'm going to grow my life. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to love myself, and I'm not going to let nobody out there on the streets define what I'm about. Yeah, I like a person like that, that's not afraid to look at a challenge and turn it into um, a prosperous life. So y'all keep being yourself. You know, I got to say thank you to everybody who is supporting me on this channel. Life with Marlene, I'm on the road to my partial monetization. I think when I looked at my hours yesterday, I had 2,100 watch time hours. So I think they're saying that you have to have 3,000 watch hours to get monetized. So I'm a little bit under 900 hours away from getting those memberships and getting memberships and super chats. That's what I'm interested in right now. Eventually, that 4,000 will come, the other 1,000. So I'm just going to keep being patient. Anybody who would like to watch my playlist, I appreciate it. I dig it. Those who rock with Marlene, thank you for rocking with me. It's very important for me. I'm just me, about my business. I like to spread positivity, love, and light to other people. Be about your business, everybody. And to anybody who needed to hear this, if you feel unsafe in your home, whether you are a child, whether you're an adult, whether you see some animals being hurt, if you see any source of abuse being had, somebody has to speak up for the voiceless. Don't be afraid to speak up for other people. Somebody has to speak up for other people who are weak. Somebody got to do it. So I appreciate all y'all for rocking with me. Thank you, Roxanne, Terry Jones, Word, Lovey. I think DJ Ron came through. Everybody who was here in the chat today, Thank y'all so much for supporting me, Warm Strong Adventures. And thank you. If you have not hit the like when you came in, please hit the like and leaving. Oh, yeah, Nancy, Perrin, and everybody who came in today. I appreciate y'all. I'm just trying to let this roll until I get to my 2 hour mark. Uh, Trying to work on this watch time here and trying to work on getting myself another playlist. So I have my goal of doing 2 hour lives to get my 6 hour playlist for Team Bill with Geo, where we watch each other's playlists. So if you are interested in getting your watch time, that's what we do over there as a member only channel, and we play each other's playlists. So if you're interested in that, hit up Team Bill with Geo. She will definitely hook you up. So thank you all so much for supporting me on this channel. I'm about to go over to my Marlene Motivates channel, and we're gonna talk on a topic in about 10 more minutes because I gotta go and get myself something to eat quickly, and then I'm going to head over there to Marlene Motivates in about 10 more minutes. So thank y'all for supporting me, everybody who rocks with me on this channel, Life with Marlene, those who rock with me on Marlene Motivates, those who rock with me on Marlene Saunders Show, those who rock with me on Just Relax Now, my motivational sounds channel, and those who rock with me on Marlene Reviews. I'm about to change Marlene Reviews channel to another channel that I think will get more. It will get more views. I think I'm going to change that channel to Marlene Encourages, and it's just going to be a channel to share positive quotes, and I'm going to talk about some different positive things, different from my Marlene Motivates. So we're going to go into more about talking about positive people and the impact that they have had and how it can encourage others. So yeah, I'll be working on that, working on my banner and all those things. Yeah, your girl Marlene is busy, and not just in real life, but also on this app, because I'm about my paper, I'm about my business, and I'm about growing my brand. So thank y'all for rocking with me, and I'll see you guys very soon. For those who want to go over to Marlene Motivates, I'll welcome you over there in about 15 minutes. Thank y'all for your support, and have a great rest of your evening, everybody. Much love. Much love. And thank you all so much for being a gem on this channel. If you have not subscribed, please do so. Bye, guys.